Chapter 50 to 51. Being reverse summoned felt quite strange. If one had to describe it, it was as if the mind and body twisted into one for a moment, disappearing from the real world and reappearing in another place, returning to normal in an instant. After passing through this infinitesimal time span, Yuto and Tsunade appeared in a strange land. It was a vast, boundless forest. It wasn't exactly eerie, but the trees were enormous, each with a diameter of at least 20 meters. Their lush branches and leaves completely obscured the sky, and the ground was an endless swamp, thick with moisture. Normally, such a massive forest and swamp should be teeming with countless animals. But Yuto observed for a long time and saw no life other than the trees, not even insects, which are known for their resilience. This land couldn't sustain other life. This was the Shikotsu forest, the dwelling place of the slug sage. Don't bother looking. Aside from us, there's only the slug sage here. Tsunade exhaled, clearly not fond of this lifeless expanse, despite her Senju heritage. Visit a few more times to get used to it. But remember, don't stay too long. There aren't even microorganisms here. Humans can develop serious health problems if they stay too long. You've been studying medical ninjutsu with me for over half a year now. You should understand this. Yuto blinked and said curiously, I thought there would be countless slugs here. How could that be? The blonde woman patted her disciple's head, noticing he had grown a bit taller. There's only one slug in the world. Those large and small slugs you see are all parts split off from the slug sage. Huh? But sensei, I always thought they seemed to have their own consciousness. When a slug splits, it includes its body, chakra, vitality, thoughts, memories, and consciousness, similar to a shadow clone. When summoned, it divides based on the amount of chakra used by the summoner. Only when they fully merge do they become the sage. You can think of those split parts as the slug's offspring in a sense, but after the summoning ends, they return to the original body. The idea of a unique existence like this reminded Yuto of the white snake sage of Ryuchi Cave and the great toad sage of Mount Myoboku. The Branch family boy seemed to think of something and hesitantly asked, So the Shibuki was reforged here? Tsunade started walking forward with her student. That piece of silk cloth had very peculiar properties. It could conduct chakra and withstand extremely high impacts. I had to rely on the slug sage. Yuto followed Tsunade, deep in thought. Even in the manga, the three great sage regions of the ninja world were shrouded in mystery. Mount Myoboku, the most frequently appearing, heavily influenced the main plotline. From the ancient prophecy of the great toad sage, to the Otsutsuki brothers about the divine tree, to the recent dreams and prophecies given to Jiraiya and the teachings of Senjutsu, the ancient toad had always been watching the ninja world from the depths of Mount Myoboku, subtly influencing fate. The white snake and the slug, both renowned like the toad, were not as prominently featured in the original story. But now, in the real world of Naruto, Yuto had to consider the thoughts of these two sages. After all, the things he intended to do would inevitably change the destined fate of the Naruto world. Tsunade led Yuto for a long time until they reached a clearing. Surrounding it were giant trees and swamps, but this spot was an abrupt piece of flat land. In the center stood a stone platform, with a long black bandage lying on it, and nothing else. The slug sage was nowhere to be seen. However, in the next moment, the swamp and forest trembled together, and a gentle female voice came from beneath the ground. Little Tsunade. Yuto realized that the slug sage resided deep beneath Shikotsu forest. The natural energy and chakra emanating from her were so abundant that they created this strange forest. But precisely because the entire forest was under the slug sage's influence, no other life could exist here. However, slug sage, why don't you come out? Is it because your immense form might cause devastation, or is it because you simply can't emerge? Yuto had a blasphemous thought but kept his face neutral, kneeling on one knee with his teacher to listen to the sage's words. Little Tsunade, the item you asked for is on the stone platform. Thank you, Slug Sage. The blonde woman's voice was soft, as the Slug Sage had been like a guardian to her since her youth. Little Tsunade, is the boy beside you the one who signed the summoning contract last time? Yes, Slug Sage. This is Yuto. I greet the sage. The Branch family boy spoke at the right time, his attitude respectful and impeccable. However, the immortal slug fell silent for a long time. Just when Yuto and Tsunade thought the Slug Sage might have fallen asleep, the gentle female voice rumbled from below once again. Yuto Hyuga, your eyes seem to reflect a future I cannot imagine. Yuto's heart nearly skipped a beat, and he almost used the reverse summoning technique to return to the real world. But he managed to hold on, controlling his muscles and calmly responding. May I ask, Slug Sage, what did you see in my eyes? As a Konoha shinobi, I hope for peace to appear in the future. Ah, the future. The slug seemed to sigh. No one can see the future clearly. Even we three can only glimpse tiny fragments of fate. Good. As long as you can't see it. You nearly scared me to death. Yuto breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. He glanced secretly at the blonde woman beside him and found her expression showed no sign of concern. Instead, she seemed happy and reassured. Seeing him look, she even grinned at him. To Tsunade, the Slug Sage's mention of an unimaginable future probably sounded like a compliment, suggesting her disciple had the potential to reach extraordinary heights as a shinobi. Little Tsunade, take the new ninja tool back to Konoha. Let Yuto stay. An old sage like me needs to talk more with the younger generation. Tsunade, unsuspecting, replied cheerfully, Sure. She went to the stone platform, took the black bandage, and patted Yuto on the shoulder. Keep the Slug Sage company. Having been under the care of the Slug Sage for over 20 years, Tsunade had deep trust in her, similar to Jiraiya's relationship with the Toad Sage. Yuto watched helplessly as Tsunade left, feeling a bit like a child left behind by a parent going off to gambling. After Tsunade left, the Slug Sage's voice echoed again, this time even more direct. Many, many years ago, a man who foresaw fate made a prophecy about us three. The immortal sage paused, seemingly reminiscing about the man's words. The toad will die of old age, the snake will shed its skin, and the slug will live forever. Perhaps it is destiny stirring. The voice of the Slug Sage rumbled from the depths of the earth, making every drop of liquid in the swamp and every leaf in the vast forest tremble. A dozen days ago, young Tsunade brought the blast sword, Shibuki. That extremely tough silk cloth was a piece of that man's clothing. Even after 1,000 years, I recognized it at a glance. That man is the Sage of Six Paths. The Sage of Six Paths! Did he once predict the fates of the toads, white snakes, and slugs of the three great lands? Yuto was moved. He remained silent, still kneeling as he listened. The toad dies of old age, so that guy is getting increasingly decrepit. The last time we met, his skin was hanging down to the ground. The white snake sheds its skin and hibernates in Ryuchi Cave year-round, so it barely changes its appearance. It's the laziest and most leisurely. The slug is immortal! Ha 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 ha! The ever-living sage suddenly burst into laughter, with no intention of stopping. The Slug Sage only stopped laughing when all the trees within dozens of kilometers had collapsed. Anyway, everything runs according to the Sage of Six Paths prophecy. He is the founder of the chakra and the first to comprehend the true essence of chakra. His power is ancient and unmatched, and those eyes of his can see far, far away. I enjoy immortality, but must also accept this fate. Even after another 1,000 years, the slug will not die and will still live underground in the Shikotsu forest. However, a small bird tries to break its cage with its beak. This is a trivial matter, so small it's not worth mentioning, like a new shoot sprouting from a great tree at Konoha's gate. But even the smallest thing is different in my eyes. The gentle voice suddenly stopped, and the vast Shikotsu forest became so silent that you could hear a pin drop. Despite his thoughts being exposed, Yuto remained extremely calm, and deep inside, he even felt a strange sense of relief. He raised his head and removed his forehead protector, revealing the ugly green caged birthmark. "Slug Sage, may I ask how you knew?" "The land of waves. Though you had a thin needle in your mouth to prevent yourself from talking in your sleep, the fluctuating chakra already told me many things. When that slug returned to my body, I knew. Don't worry, there are very few who can interpret emotions from chakra in this world. And at that time, there was only me beside you." "The land of waves, huh?" Yuto shrugged. "So, what do you think of my idea?" "Let's look around the Shikotsu forest," the slug sage replied. Yuto almost laughed inappropriately, almost thinking that this ancient slug was telling him a cold joke to tease him. But clearly the sage's answer was not a joke. The boy knew what the slug meant. "What you want to do is none of my business. I won't interfere, and I certainly won't tell anyone." This answer fit the slug's identity perfectly. She had lived for 1,000 years, existing long before the shinobi villages. To her, the affairs of the world were insignificant. To her, Konoha's internal affairs might seem like child's play. In a few hundred years, everything would change. Maybe even the concept of shinobi villages would no longer exist, but she, the slug sage, would still live in the Shikotsu forest. After all, the slug is immortal. That is her fate. But this wasn't enough. Since the conversation had reached this point, it would be a waste not to push further, Yuto thought, not planning to stop here. If you truly believed in fair competition and didn't get close to the leadership, you'd never get promoted. Like all transmigrators, Yuto was a cunning outsider. Moreover, from the slug sage's words, it seemed she wasn't satisfied with the fate of being immortal. "Whatever you do, I won't tell anyone," was already a form of tacit approval. Though he didn't know the specific reason, Yuto sensed that the slug sage had some hidden expectations regarding what he planned to do. After a moment's thought, Yuto cautiously said, "Slug Sage, the world has become quite chaotic lately. Even the most peaceful and stable place, Konoha, is stockpiling ninja tools and ration pills. As a shinobi, both for public and personal reasons, I will stand on the battlefield and fight the enemies. Given my current status, I'll probably hold a position and act with my village comrades, but I also want a private space of my own." Yuto smiled wickedly, knowing the slug sage understood what this private space was for. "Recently, I've set up a few underground bases to tinker with some scientific experiments. However, on the battlefield, certain items can't be moved easily, and I can't use sealing scrolls as they're military supplies under control. So, can I summon slugs to help me transport them? If necessary, even store them in the Shikotsu forest?" As a signer of the summoning blood contract, Yuto had the right to make such a request. What he truly meant was, "When I use slugs for rogue activities, can you keep it a secret?" Before long, the rumbling underground returned. Before this, if Tsunade asked, the slugs would tell her what you did with the summoning jutsu. But from today, it will no longer be the case. Your authority will be the highest among the summoners. The slugs will prioritize your commands. Of course, Tsunade or Konoha. No one will know about this change." Yuto let out a sigh of relief. As expected, the slug sage understood the hidden meaning in his words, establishing a certain degree of mutual understanding. The Branch family boy suddenly recalled an old saying from his past life. "An old fox is cunning, an old horse is slippery, and an old rabbit is hard for the hawk to catch. Living in the Shikotsu forest for 1,000 years, even a piece of wood would become sentient over time. The wisdom and thoughts of such an ancient creature were indeed difficult to fathom. Then, Slug Sage, I, Yuto, will take my leave. Yuto understood the principle of quitting while ahead. He put on his forehead protector and was about to leave the Shikotsu forest. However, he didn't expect the Slug Sage's gentle voice to echo in his ears once more. Yuto, what's the weather like outside? The branch family boy paused, then answered, Sage, it's very sunny. A very fine day. A sunny day? Yuto didn't quite understand, but he still respectfully left. The boundless Shikotsu forest was once again left with a sea of trees, a swamp, and the slugs dwelling underground. No one knew how much time had passed. Maybe an hour, a day, or a month, before the gentle voice slowly rumbled through the Shikotsu forest. A sunny day, the last time I basked in the sun was 1,000 years ago.